And I went on, and he's made me rethink the position that I had on Megaback, that I actually included in the DVD, which was, people were talking about the additive that they put in baking products. And I've always poo-pooed it and said, I'm not baking a loaf of bread, I'm looking after a budgie. So I've always gone for Megaback S. Now, the Megaback S, as well as being expensive, it's not so much the price, because what price you put on losing birds. The fact is, it's become almost unobtainable.
Yeah, a lot of those products have now.
Yeah, so it's rethinking it. And he's made me now wonder, because he was going on about you. He hasn't convinced me yet, I have to say, but he's made me rethink. And I'm thinking, well, hang on, I've got a vet now, a bird vet, saying that this stuff is likely to work and worth using. Now, at the moment, I haven't made that leap, because I'm sourcing 1 or 2 other products for Megaback. Amphotericin B, I think, is the main ingredient for the original one. Anyway, but yeah, so I've seen that video. I mean, to have Kevin on board is a great asset, because if you can get a vet, because a lot of vets, if people have got a sick bird and they take it to the vet, to be perfectly honest, unless you go to an avian vet, the normal vets haven't got the experience or the time or the inclination even to give us what we need for managing a stud of budgies.
No.
But when you've got a bird like a breeder like Kevin on board, which I like, and similar to Marcel Burkle, who are bird breeders and vets, then it's a great asset. And I watched that video, and I really found it. I found it excellent.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a lot more on the website. So if you ever fancy, joining up and that, and there's plenty there to get your teeth into.
It's a great asset for the fancy, because the more information you've got out there, readily and easily available. Because one of the things I found when I give the talks, I'm very much, and when I did my DVD, I was very much aware that things that we 50 years of Adam, you take things for granted, as if it's just matter of fact, and then you speak to a beginner who looks at you as if to say, "What?" And you forget that they at the beginning end of the fancy need the basic things that we take for granted. So having a website like that and the availability of stuff like that, I think is great.
I mean, we've had an incident today. A lady has contacted somebody about buying birds. She's been shown pictures, and the conditions that they're kept in are awful. And I'm sure a lot of it is just down to education. This is how you should be doing it. I know you can lead a horse to water, but if they don't know, then they don't know they don't know.
And the problem with it is, Neil, is that the most important thing, rather than buying budgies, rather than wait, is husbandry. If you get the husbandry right, then the rest falls into place. But if you don't get the husbandry right, you can buy all the medications you like, you can watch as many videos as you like, you can get your birds from wherever you like. If you haven't got the housing and husbandry right, you'll always have problems and issues.
That's right. I mean, I look back now and think where my problems have come from, and I know because I bought from everywhere and everywhere, didn't have enough ventilation in the shed, and over the 30 years I've had birds, I've now got to where I should have started. But again, I didn't know. So
no. But at least you've reset yourself. Quite a few won't reset themselves. They just think, I've got too much invested, I've got too many birds, I've got them for me, I've got this, I can't afford to change. But the trouble is, it just perpetuates. And eventually you'll get fed up and pack in.
That's right. Yeah. I nearly did twice.
But
yeah. So I know you mentioned you'd had birds from Alan and Gina. Are there plans, if you don't mind me asking, on going elsewhere?
Yeah, the important thing for me, I don't think I would have come back if I wasn't confident that I could have had the help from some of my friends, who were not just friends, but good budgie breeders. Alan and Gina, they bought my original stud that I let go when I packed in the last time. And then the last one, which was a further 10 years worth, went to Mike. So both have got my bloodline. And that bloodline includes birds from Martin Halen, Lutoff, and some of Dave Warren. Now, the formula, I'd done the hard bit. The hardest choice is where do you go for your birds? And it's the most important decision anybody will ever, there's still hundreds of people breed budgies. And I guess, Neil, it depends what you want. If you want to have a collection of birds, give you loads of fun, you're showing at cage bird societies, you'll show at the budgie shows, you'll get an odd rosette, you're chuffed to bits with that and you're happy with that and you can buy birds from wherever you want. You get on with it. That's fine. That's not a problem. The problem is if you're frustrated and you're pulling your hair out because you've been to top people and you've been here and been there and you've mixed them together and you're paying a fortune for your birds and you're just not getting anywhere. Well, it's either that with the best will in the world, you don't know enough or you haven't got that to use the birds, or you're mixing that many birds together because each breeder will breed his own genetic pool.
Yeah.
And he'll formulate those birds. They don't happen by accident. He breeds them. So if you start going to 3 or 4 different breeders and then you throw them all in together, well, and it's a word they won't like me using, but you've got mongrels. And you can start to develop your own, but it's so much harder. So 2 or 3 breeders is as much as you want to go to. And go to the breeders. And I said this, I've been saying this every time I've given a talk over the last 20, 30 years, but it's still today makes sense. Do your research, find out who's winning with their own birds. And the other thing is, don't buy a budgie off somebody you wouldn't buy a second-hand car off. Yeah. Somebody once said that to me, and I tell you what, it's right. If you think, hang on, would I give this man a lot of money for a second-hand car? And if the answer is no, don't buy any budgies off. Because you need to build a relationship up and you need to go back year after year until you're established and work with these breeders. So you need to find people you can work with. You need to find somebody that's got enough birds to let you out and then get your foundation. Once you've got your foundation, you can get birds from anywhere because you've got a strong genetic pool that won't, or you drop your outcrop crossing and get the bits and pieces. So for me, the decision was, if I was coming back into budgies as champion, was I going to start again from scratch, not have any of my old bloodline, build it all again? Well, it takes that long to do what it took me years to build. I don't think I'd have come back, Neil.
No.
I knew Alan would help me. I knew Mike Ball would help me. I know Martin Halen will help me. They've all pledged to help me. But the problem is, it's not as easy getting birds in from Europe as it used to be.
No, so, that's right.
Alan was my first call, Alan and Gina. And Alan and Gina's birds, the birds I brought back, I picked up 3 cocks and quite a lot of hens, to be fair. I think about 12. They really were brilliant with me. So I've got these birds from them, and I've had 6 pair of crest bed as fosters, so I can maximise the better birds. So the first port of call was Alan and Gina, helped me out as I knew they would, brilliant. So when we were going through the breeding behind, the majority go back to my birds and my bloodline, which Alan and Gina were heavily into. That's fabulous for me because I know the features, I know the strong points, I know the expectations of what I can get out. So Alan and Gina were the first port of call. There's another guy, another chap that kept talking to me on the phone, even though the birds had gone, he'd bring me each week. And in the Lancashire area, people know him, a chap called Phil Robinson, smashing fella, smashing guy. And we became friends, and he got birds from me, and he's had birds from Mike. And he breeds some good birds. Lovely guy. And I was talking to him, and he had a pied, I don't know if I sent you a picture of it, a cobalt pied. And when I let Mike Ball have my birds, that was one of the best 2 birds babies I bred, in my opinion. Look, similar shape to the Spangle.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fabulously bred. Well, he got the bird, and he's already promised me a couple of sons back. Well, again, that's the type of help that I need.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a couple of these sons back from him. I'm going to see Mike in February, and I'm certain Mike will help me out again, because there's a lot of Mike's blood in my birds anyway. And of course, he bought my last birds. So it made absolute sense to go back to where my birds went. And he's got super birds anyway, so there's Mike. Now, those breeders there, and Dave Warren, who's a great friend of mine, I know Dave's going to help me. That's it then. There'll be no birds from anywhere else other than the people where my original birds, because I won't be practicing what I preach. If I start dropping birds, and I've had offers of help from other people, which is great, but if I start dropping too many into the mix, so fortunately, this time back, which isn't available to everybody who starts, I'm getting most of my birds and my bloodline back. So it's not going to be quite like starting at the beginning.
No.
But if I was a beginner or not coming into the fancy, then it still works of just picking 2 or 3 breeders that you can get on with and work with them. Don't be in a rush. Don't go buying the best birds. Just look in the selling cage and anything that you quite like, and be a pain. Just keep saying, what's that off? What's that off? What's that off? What's that? And then when you get to something that's off something absolutely super, and that's off something super, grab the youngster out of the selling class and then get something to go with it, and you work from there, which goes back to the cock to cock lecture that I did.
Yeah. I was just going to come on to that. I mean, can you just sort of I know it's quite an in-depth topic, but just a sort of overview of why you think pairing cock to cock.
I get asked, even though I did the DVD, which was Back to Basics and Back to the Future, I did that talk in Belgium, Holland, and at the club show. And the reason it's on a DVD was Jeff Atwood pestered me to do a DVD. So in the end, I did one. And I sold, I think it was £10. So I made sure that everybody could afford it, more or less. It was not to make a fortune. Once I'd covered my costs, then I donated money to the other clubs that I got out that I made from it, and I didn't have any more done. But even though that one, we went around, it went to 20 different countries, I think, and it's on YouTube. The one I get asked about more is cock to cock. Now, I don't think I'm giving a secret away, because he didn't say it was a secret. I'm actually doing the cock to cock lecture at the WBO in August. And if I've let it out too early, Martin will shoot me, but there you go. It's the one I've been asked about more. And when Martin asked me to do it, he said, because he still does it. He still follows that. And the logic behind it is, and I use some examples of British birds. It's not the exact science, because British birds, the females are a different colour for a reason, to hide from predators or whatever. And the cockbirds are to display to woo the female. But what it proved was, if you can have a peahen that is black and brown, and if she has the ability to genetically reproduce a peacock, then it got me thinking, hang on a minute, we're developing our hens to look like the cocks. So a budgie breeder would get one peacock and want to find a hen that looked like the peacock to put it together. And the problem is, when you go down the road of choosing the great big hens that we've genetically altered, they don't breed, they don't lay as many, because we've genetically changed them so much, they're more like a cockbird. So what I started to think was, hang on a minute, and I started to focus just on the cockbird side, because I visited when I lived in Barrow, and I'm going back now 40 years or more. I went to Don Avenant's, and we walked through his garage, past his Rolls Royce, went into his aviary, and there was this tiny, it was done a different way, but it made me think. It was a tiny opaline green cock, and it was horrible, and I mean horrible. And he opened the box, and he pulled out 3 opaline light green eggs that were out of this world. I mean, out of this world. And the mother was visual, but the father was absolutely nothing. Yet genetically, because of what it's carrying, it had bred these three awesome, and it always stuck with me that. And so much so, I used to buy lesser bred cocks, which when beginners come into your aviary, that's what they should do. They buy the lesser bred cocks off the super birds. But the cock to cock is once you get a family of birds, if you will, and once you're getting your head around getting decent birds, then I then will put the cock in I want to find a mate for, and I will go and find another male that's displaying the features I want him to go to. So I've now got two males in a cage. And if I think that those males suit each other, I wouldn't get many eggs if I put them together. No. So what I do is male one will be paired to a daughter of the other male. And male two will be paired to a daughter of the other male. So there's two pairs there that in my mind, I am mating those two birds together, the two cock birds. Now the hens, when I go looking for them, they might be all right. They might be visually compatible anyway. Now, as long as those hens haven't got small spots, nip, neck, major faults. But if they're an average hen, so much the better. Those average hens will be mated to those cocks. Now, if you keep, and then the following year, don't look at the hens again, you go to the cocks. Now, can you imagine, let's say 5 years down the line of just operating that system and only using visually good quality cockbirds? It means that you can almost go in the flight and catch any hen, put her in a cage, and then if I say catch a father, it'll be a good one. And if I say, yeah, but where's his father? It'll be a good one. Yeah, but where's his father? It'll be a good one. And you're going back year after year after year because you've strengthened the male side. And to be honest, although we win with hens, and I've shown, you've seen a picture of a hen I won with.
Yeah.
It's really the males we want to show. We don't really want to show. Yes, we'll show them, but it's really the males we want to show. So it got to the stage where, now the thing is, the hens still get better. You don't get average hens. You still end up with these big hens. But the focus isn't on there. The focus every time I pair up, and when I've been to Allen's to select these birds, it's been what the fathers are and what they're off. And because it's my own line, I know where it goes back to. And when I go to Mike's, I'll be more interested in the fathers. Because this cock to cock, and you've got to stick with it year after. And the number of people, Neil, that have come up to me and said, hey, I'm doing that. And it's doing all right. So the principle to me really was trying to get away from these huge hens. And really, I want to see what the males the family have got. Because you could have a super looking hen and she could be a throwback. Her father might not visually display. Now, you can do it the other way. You could do it with hens if you wanted to. But once you start dropping average cocks in, as well as average, then the cock to cock, going back for years principle, goes out the window because you'll come across an average bird. And of course, that's still going to be in the mix. If people come and buy lesser birds and use them, I always say, once they breed better, don't go back to the visually average cocks. If they breed better, go onwards. Don't be tempted to think, oh, well, they're good, because they're still visually not carrying what you want, even though genetically they are. So the cock to cock for me was trying to get away from searching for these big hens, because when you come to pair up, sometimes you can be looking for a hen, and maybe you can't find one for a cockbird because you're looking visually.
Yeah.
Instead of actually, hang on, I've got all these good cockbirds. I'll start putting the good cocks together, and all I'll do is find a daughter off them. And unless the daughter have got any glaring faults, then it's something I've tried. It's something that works. And interestingly, Martin Halen says he's still doing that. He's still doing it. So that's a brief without going in. All the slides to support it and everything else. That's a brief shot of why it's cock to cock. Yeah.
And I mean, do you think you'll change much to your feeding that you did before, or are you going to literally kick off with what you did before?
I actually had to go on YouTube and watch my own video back to remind myself of what I did before.
Right.
And really, I've actually jotted down what my soft food mix is, because there's that many different seed mixes on the market. You can get, Joe Man's Expert or Fred Blogg's Expert, and I've tried them all, Neil. I've tried the and I'm not saying they're not good seeds, but you get red millet, white millet, canary, that, and a blend of this, and 24% of that, and a third of this, and all seed that we buy is basically way past its sell-by date. It's like dead seed, way past. Because when the crops get hit in the wild, it's green. And the birds dive on the seed and eat it while it's green. While it's green, it's full of all the vitamins and everything that you want. You can't sell green seed. You can't transport green seed around. So what they do is it gets over-ripened and then polished and then sent around to various different pets and whatever. And wherever you get it, some seeds cleaner than others, but basically it needs extra. It's not really good enough. So I was having bird, and if you give mixed seed, one bird will eat one will eat another, some will eat another, some will eat another. You put the mixture in a dish. When you come to empty the cage off the floor, you need to be built like Jeff Capes, because they've thrown all the seed they don't want on the floor, and each bird may be different, and you're throwing tons and tons of good seed away.
Yeah.
So I give 50% canary, 50% white millet. That's it, as far as the basic seed's concerned. So they get 50% canary, 50% white millet. That's what they get. And normally, if I get one dish that I've got it mixed in 50-50, if one bird's eating mostly white millet and the other's canary, I swap the dishes and let one eat the canary and one eat the white millet.
Yeah.
To get through it, you get far less wastage. If you're giving a hopper, feeding mixed seed in a hopper is a nightmare, because you just throw it all over. So the basic seed is 50-50. I've always had Johnson and Jeff's. So Alan gets Johnson and Jeff. So I'll go back to it, because that's where I was with it. 50-50, and that's what I've on now. Jap millet. Jap millet is the finest thing for weaning babies. Yeah. It's a lovely, soft, nutritional seed. The minute the babies come out the box, bang, they're straight on the Jap millet. So I'll have Jap millet in a separate dish. It's a very light seed. If you mix it with the main seed, when you blow the husks, you'll blow the Jap millet off.
Yeah.
Because it's light. So
you have to feed it separate, don't you?
It needs to be in a separate dish. Yeah.
I do virtually the same as you. Although I don't mix my canary and millet, I just have a dish of canary and a dish of millet, the French white millet, and then lots of Jap millet.
So, well, I mixed the first time, but I found myself this time giving it in separate dishes.
Yeah.
I haven't gone to the breeding cages yet, so I've got to look at the practicality of giving different dishes in the breeding cages, but I may well do that as well, because I'll know then what's being eaten and what isn't being eaten. The hoppers that I'm using in the flights are split down the middle. I got them off Sam Wilds. They're great. Love them. So, input canary in one side, white millet in the other, which is easy, which is great. The key is what else you give. That's where the trick is, if you will. Yeah. What extra you do for the birds. So the soft food mix, I went back on to check on what I give. But the problem was, one of the key ingredients was made by Kevin Ball, who doesn't do it anymore.
No.
And I'm not just saying it. He asked me if I'd try it, and I said, well, I will. I said, but if it's rubbish, I'm going to tell people. And if it's good, I'll tell people. So you take that chance on how much confidence you've got in it. I said, because I'm not here to sell other people's product, but I'm here to pass it on to the fancy if I think it's good. It was great. And I mean, I had birds that had never bred for me before. And I've given them all the other nutritional stuff of other birds. And I remember I had a bird off Martin Hill, and I'd never ever bred off it. It was an old bird getting on. I had it up as a foster. And then when I went on the Kevin's stuff, I went to throw the eggs away. They were fertile. And I'd tried everything before that. And there were one or two others. And the main thing I felt was when I was getting them out of the breeding cage, the condition of them while breeding was brilliant. Now, so I'm going to miss that. Yeah. However, I'll mention now what I've gone on to. So if I tell you what my soft food mix is, it's just veg from Alan and Gina, which is a staple of my other soft food. Home over, pigeon food. Dry naked oats, not soaked, because although I'll do sprouted seed, I'll sprout mung beans, because I think when you sprout seed, it's more valuable than anything.
Definitely.
You've got to make sure you clean it. But when you're using anything with a shell on, like an oat, you got to be careful. You can get all the damp out, the spores and everything else. If you use groats, then by all means soak them. But I never soak oats because I can't guarantee that I'm going to get everything out of it.
No.
So in particular, those people who don't use wire cages or use standard cages, unless you clean your birds out every day, you've got stale soft food on the floor.
Yeah.
And if they pick up some of that, the oats, so it's just veg, home over, naked oats, sprouted mung beans, sweet corn, and then I used to add chick crumb. Not the stuff with medication in, because I didn't like you, because I know one or two of the big people, and they use it, and they advocate it. I don't use it. If I want to medicate my birds, I'll medicate them. I don't want every single pair having medication in the feed.
No.
So I used to use the organic. So I used to use the organic chick crumb, because chick crumb has got so many other valuable things in for chickens to grow. I found it beneficial. And the other thing is, with soft, wet veg that you've soaked and all the rest of it, and sweet corn, it absorbed the moisture, and it made the texture better. Well, Martin says to me, when you come over, remind me to show you the chick crumb I'm now using. And I went over there, and I actually thought it was a soft food. It was brilliant. It's Garvo. It's either Alpha Start or Alpha Chick, 1075, and that's the key. It's got to be 1075.
Well, do you know?
There's another one.
Yeah, do you know what the big thing at the moment? And Paul Stannard started me off on it, and that is one of the Garvo layers mash with herbs. I think it's I want to say 370, but I'm not sure if that's right, so don't quote me on that. But and that's turned my birds around, just that one product.
Well, the layers, because I had the layers when I had the chicken, and it's headed a different way. It's for chicken production and eggs, which is great, you know. But the chick start is for young chicks to get them to grow and give them everything they need. This is a wonderful. It's got little tiny shrimp in it, and the ingredients are absolute. It's awesome. It's really, really good. So that's going in. And there now I've just added in replace of Kevin's stuff, Birdwise product and Birdwise X. Now there's quite a range of Birdwise products, all aimed, and I'm sure they're all good. But what I wanted was, I've got the basics of it. I wanted something with the amino acids and all the other things that would perhaps might be missing. Well, having had a look, I think this Birdwise Blend X might be the extra piece to add. Is
that a food or an additive?
It's like a white powder.
Oh, right.
It's like a powder. A lot of the others contain food.
Yeah.
Like groats, egg food, stuff like that. This is a powder. And it's a bit gritty, but it's a powder. Now, the beauty of that is it'll stick to the sweet corn, it sticks to the veg, it sticks to, so they'll take it. If it's a product that's got to be eaten, if they don't eat it, they won't get it. But with this being a fine powder that will stick to all the other things, then they will get it, which is great. And then there'll be a probiotic in every day. We had I'm trying to think of the name now, a chicken vet, a chicken nutritionist, came, Libby Harris. And she worked.
Did she work for one of the labs?
Yes, she did.
Yes, I remember.
Now somewhere out, Libby Harris.
Yeah.
We had her at our club, and she did spoke to one or two other clubs. And she said, you should give probiotic. every day. We don't use it enough. We should give it every day. And we tend to use a probiotic after we've medicated as a pick-me-up. Well, nothing wrong with it. It's harmless. It's got to be good for them. So a probiotic will go in every day. And then occasionally or sparingly, I put Fertivit in as well.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll put some of that in. Now, that is my soft food mix.
Wow.
Now, if you've noticed, there's no egg food.
No.
Now, I don't give egg food. Now, egg food, I use wire cages so I could get away with it.
Yeah.
But if I give you the scenario that anybody's heard me talk, they'll be sick of hearing this because it's part of me talks and it's on the DVD. But egg food goes back to the days of breeding in coconut husks virtually and giving Abidec and Cytocon and that type of thing. And then protein, got to be eggs. So boil an egg, smash it up and mash and give the egg. Now, anybody listening to this, don't let me talk you out of doing what you're doing. I've got to say that because, this is just, this meeting is about what I do.
Yep.
And if I do it, I like to give a reason behind why I do it. Now, nobody has to agree with me. You can all agree to do it their own way. And if you get any, and if it works, that's great. No problem. But the reason I don't use egg is that particularly in the flights or where there is no way of trapping the stale egg food, you give egg, whether it's the proprietary blend of an egg food or whether you're adding boiled egg in the warmer months or when the weather's not freezing, there is nothing finer for growing salmonella and bug than egg. It'll propagate so quick on that you wouldn't believe it. So scenario, you put your egg food in a dish in the breeding, and worse if you put it in a finger draw, but I'll come to that. So you put it in a dish, put it on the cage, the bird comes up, they don't eat with a knife and fork, you pick out the bits they want, you throw it all around the cage, and suddenly in amongst your sawdust and droppings, you've got egg. Day one. Do you on day two go and clean your cage out thoroughly? There won't be many breeders, there may be one or two, but there won't be many that do. Day two, more egg food. Now you've got 2 days worth of egg food. You multiply that to the end of the week. The stuff at the beginning of the week, particularly in the warmer weather, is starting to grow salmonella and fungus now. Now, what do chicks do when they come out the box? Suddenly this super chick, the one you've been waiting for, comes out the box. You're already preparing your speech for winning the club show. Super bird. And then all of a sudden it goes down bang and you've got no idea what it is and you medicate it and you do it and you lose it. And you don't blame. Oh, it could be anything. Well, it could be you. Because that's what they'll do. Now, any food can go stale on the floor. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate any food can go stale on the floor. Egg is the world's worst for it. So why was I giving it protein? Well, hang on. There are lots of products out there that contain protein. A lot of those products that I've gone through, they will contain protein. The Garvo Alpha Chick Start got lots of protein.
I can say that'll be very high protein, won't it? Which is what it's all about. Yeah.
I use in Thrive. The other thing I do is Thrive and Gloss from Alan, and I give it in a finger drop. High protein again. So there's safer means of giving protein more readily available. Now, in my breeding cages, I've got wire cages. And people, why do you use wire cages? Well, the wire cages are that every single bit of food I give to my birds, I know is fresh. Because all the stealth, all the others gone through the wire.
Yeah,
even
onto the tray.
If I don't pull the trays out every day, I could leave a tray a week. Doesn't matter. It's all in that tray and they can't get at it. So hygiene-wise, nailed it.
Yeah.
But what about the flights? And what about the who haven't got wire boxes, haven't got wire cages? So I took the egg out for that reason, so that there's other ways of using protein. And one other tip for those of you that do use egg food, have a look at your packet of egg food and open it and see if there are any Niger seeds in there. If there are, I would love to know why there are Niger seeds in egg food. Well, I'll tell you why. And you know it, Tabby, you smell it, you know it. You dip your finger draw into the egg food, you push it in the bars, and the budgie come up and goes, where's me Niger seeds? Dives into the Niger seed, eats all the Niger feeds, empties the finger drawer looking for the Niger seeds. The egg food goes on the floor, and you think, my God, they love it. So you give them some more. The people that sell it are rubbing their hands because you're going to be buying more egg food. If you're in any doubt, put egg food in a dish. Not a finger drawer. Put it in a dish. If they eat everything in that dish, including the Niger seeds, but they eat the egg food as well, that's great. But if, as I suspect, you keep tipping out more and more and more egg food, why waste your money?
Yeah. Well, it was
I give Thrive and Gloss in a finger drawer, Neil, because that's the same all the way through. It's the same.
Yeah.
So there's no point in digging, because when they dig down, they're only going to get the same as on the top. So what they do is they eat the way down it. Yeah. So I do use finger drawers for that, but I'd never give egg food. For those of you that do use egg food, you'd be wasting your money.
Yeah. Funny enough, it was my dad. He breeds and races pigeons. And years ago, I bought home a bag of EMP. And it was exactly the same. That's got the Niger seed in it. But he read the first line, baker's waste. And it was like, why are you feeding that? They've got a bit of biscuit in a cake, some egg biscuit, and some Niger seed. And that was it. And that was when I sort of started to come away from all this proprietary stuff. But then I got into the realms of a dash of this and a spoon of that. And Kevin will tell you, if you ever talk to him about how he helped me, and we just got a big bin bag, and I just went like that straight in there and started fresh, and I've never looked back. And I actually use the Garvo layers mash as my base mix now. Because when you run through the ingredients, everything's there. And funny enough, I'm going to actually take something away. I'll do a bit of research. Is that Birdwise one is actually the amino acid side is something I've been looking at myself. So that
I did a lot of research. Like I said, there's that many different products on the market. I really miss not having that one available. And ironically, I believe, without knowing too much, that Kevin and Simon they actually developed together and then went their separate ways. So it may well be that this is nearer what I thought I was using in the first place anyway. You know, and the other thing, like the Just Veg from Alan, full of vitamins in that, but by Just Veg and sweet corn, which they love, all these other things we add, like the Garvo, which is a fine powder, as well as the shrimp and all the rest of it, they'll all stick to that. So even if they'll take it in, you see, they'll take it in. Something else I don't do, Neil, is I don't give, again, I've got to say this, don't all of you do what I'm about to tell you, but I'll just say I don't do it. I'll tell you why. I don't give cuttlefish. I've never give, for years and years and years. The amount of calcium, and again, it goes back to the Abideck days and cytochrome. There's very little calcium absorbed from a cuttlefish that a budgie will take in. Yes, they like to chew it, and it's good for the beak. I'm not saying that. But I use iodine blocks instead. Iodine blocks aren't as expensive. They last longer. They've still got vitamins and other things, but I'm not kidding myself. The bird's getting calcium because he's got a cuttlefish bone in there. And it's important that if a bird gets calcium, we need to know that it's getting it. Now, they should take calcium out of a lot of the stuff in the soft food, a lot of the other the stuff we get. But what I do instead is a couple of times a week, 2 or 3 times a week, I'll add a liquid calcium to the water. And just as a boost, just to be sure, like. And I've never fed grit for 30 odd years. Now, does a bird need grit to live? Well, that's not a guess. No. All my birds would be dead. Every year, I wouldn't have bred 300 birds the last year before I packed in from 50 cages if they needed grit. Now, do they get any goodness out of it? That's a different question, because they may well do. I'm sure, because they go for it, they like it, they'll pick it up. So they're probably getting something out of the grit. So I just made the decision again is with crop issues that you can get in birds. Do I want grit that I'm not 100% sure how it's sourced, no matter what I read or see? And even the oyster shell grit, I'm not sure anything that comes from the sea now is as safe as it used to be. But no. Do I want to put stones into the crop of a budgie if I don't need to? Now, it'd be very interesting for me to have this conversation with Kevin sometime to see what he thinks.
Funny enough, yeah. He had there's been a really big topic. One of the we tend to find within the UKBC Facebook page and everything, we find a topic, and it will run for as long as it runs. So and grit has run for quite a while, to be honest. And I'm not saying everybody, but the census is, we say that, and Kevin has said that they don't need grit. And he did a podcast thing with Hayth Seeds, managing director, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and the topic of grit, because obviously Hayth sell the grit, and it came up, and Kevin was really honest. They don't need it. They may well get something out of it, but what you've got to make sure is it's soluble grit, not insoluble, because the insoluble one will cause you problems. Yeah. But yeah, so the conversation you would have with Kevin is a mirror of what you've just said. Yeah. Exactly the same. And I'm the same. I haven't fed grit all pretty much from day one, because my dad said, well, it takes its shell off the seed, so it won't necessarily need it.
That is the exact. That's what I say when they give me an ostrich or anything that swallows seed whole. Needs them to grind it. Anything that dehusks the seed doesn't need it.
No,
the kernel breaks down in the crop. So why put stones in? Now, my birds will go to another aviary and eat grit.
Yep.
I'll bring birds here that have been brought up and lived on grit, and they'll never get it again. Never have any problems. Never have any problems.
No. Well, brilliant. I think I certainly haven't got any more questions as such. We could probably talk about the development of birds, but perhaps we'll save that for once you've had, a year or so's breeding, and we can catch up and see how you've progressed from sort of day one, because I get a feeling you'll be getting snap happy with your camera. And,
I keep saying to myself that I'm not going to try and attract that much attention. But when you're on Facebook and you've got budgie friends, it's nice to show them. And it makes Facebook interesting for your budgie friends. My family don't like it so much. They're fed up of seeing what they said is all men and budgies. But for budgie people, then it's interesting. And the internet, there's a lot of... The thing with the internet is you have to be selective in that it's too easy to ridicule the internet and say it's creating all the problems. And there's a lot of good out there. But the problem with it is it brings people into contact behind a keyboard.
Yeah.
And people are brave behind the keyboard. And some of the things I've read and seen on Facebook are vile. And the things that they say, it's like I liken the new budgie club. I think it's welcome. I think it's great for the hobby, and I'm really pleased that it's covering everybody.
Yeah.
They used to, but I don't see it as a challenge to the BS. I don't see it as a replacement for the BS. I think the BS can learn things from because it's the modern era, and the problem is the Budgie Gas Society, in my opinion, has been hit by the internet in that it brings a different level and different aspect to the hobby that you really have to embrace, and you have to take it on board and not get upset by it. Don't get wound up by, because people before, all the budgie talking and that was done in somebody's aviary. Yep. And if anything was said, it was a whisper or somebody said this or round a budgie show. Well, now anybody says anything, it's on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the old adage, send reinforcements, we're going to advance. And by the time it's been round a bit, it says send 3 and 4 pence, we're going to a dance. It's got absolutely no bearing on what was said in the first place.
That's right.
But my expectations from the likes of the BSI, don't see your society as a threat to them.
No.
Because it's when they used to have Budgie Worlds and Gerald Binks.
Yeah.
It wasn't a replacement to the Budgie Regard Society. No. It was as well as the Budgie Regard Society. It brought something else to the hobby, which was great.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So no, I applaud what you're doing. I think it's great.
No, I mean we never set this up as anything other than offering something new to a new generation. And I even take the older people, we've got people we have to help get onto Facebook. We have to help them navigate the website, because they want to be involved, but they haven't got those IT skills that my generation and the next generation and that have got, So, And
I think youngsters, Neil, you're actually attacking them from their own domain, because with youngsters nowadays, if they can't plug it in and sit in a bedroom and look at it, and play games on it or whatever. Now, if you can actually get on these sites and see pictures of budgies and see budgies and learn things about budgies, we've got more chance of keeping them interested than just try to get mum and dad to have a shed in the garden that when it's gone dark, you can't go in.
That's right.
No, I think it's a great idea. But
good.
You've got to maneuver your way through the internet. Yeah. What's good, what's bad, but if you can do that, then I think it's a great asset.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Harry. And from everybody at the UKBC, this is going to go out on the main Facebook page fairly soon. So it will be out and about for everybody to see. And I can't thank you enough for spending the time.
I've enjoyed it, Neil, and I'm sure at some stage in the future we'll do it again, mate.
Oh, I'm sure we will.